Hi everyone, this is Deepa Iyer, and over the next couple of months, I am going to share some of the most frequently asked questions that I receive about the social change ecosystem framework. For those of you who might be new to it, this is a resource I developed to support individuals, institutions, and networks identify their roles in advancing social justice in sustainable and effective and strategic ways. More information is at www.socialchangemap.com. So let's get started. One common question I receive is, I feel depleted and uninspired in the social change ecosystem I occupy. Is it me or is it the ecosystem? As with all things in life, it's likely a combination. But before getting into it, let's step back and talk a little bit about what social change ecosystems actually are. In my book, Social Change Now, I write about how social change ecosystems can take lots of different shapes and forms. They could include formal nonprofit organizations with staff, mutual aid collectives with volunteers, maybe a campaign around a particular policy or legislation. It could be an online community, a book club, or a campus organization. What's unique about a social change ecosystem is that folks are coming together with a shared commitment to justice, to interdependence, to community care. And they're going about it through lots of different strategies: advocacy, organizing, storytelling, education, mutual aid, etc. Now, healthier social change ecosystems tend to embody certain values. There's an openness to different experiences and perspectives. There is an importance being placed around creating a community of care, a culture of care, reciprocity and collaboration, and trust building. There is an interest in curiosity and experimentation, and there's the ability to adapt as situations around us change. So, not all ecosystems are going to be able to live up to every single one of these values, but the question there is to understand and become more aware of the presence of those values and their absence. So, let's get back to that question. Why do some ecosystems leave us energized while others leave us depleted? Reason one, the roles that you're playing in the ecosystem might be a mismatch. Now, we can't walk into social justice spaces and demand that we get to play the roles we think we're good at or want to. We have to observe, we have to learn, pause, and understand what is required and needed by the communities that the ecosystem is accountable to. So, for example, in crisis response ecosystems like shelters or hotlines or disaster relief efforts or responses to ICE raids, frontline responders may be the role that is most central. Ecosystems that are focused on long-term strategy or cultural transformation may create more space for storytellers or visionaries or experimenters. So if your role feels less visible or less understood, that doesn't mean that your role lacks value. It may mean that the ecosystem has not yet developed the structures, the imagination, or the infrastructure necessary to fully integrate it. The opening here is to try out small experiments to play the roles you're interested in, or to use your role to support the ones that are more needed. Like in a rapid response ecosystem, a storyteller could be documenting and archiving the experiences of the frontline responders. And if that doesn't work, then thinking about how we can play our chosen role in a different ecosystem. Reason two, you may be carrying too much of the same role across too many ecosystems. So here, depletion may stem less from the role itself than from chronic repetition without recovery or reciprocity. So weavers may be mediating conflicts everywhere they go. Caregivers may be constantly checking in on others. Builders may always be the first to say, I'll handle it. This can have an impact on us, and it can have a particular impact on people with marginalized identities. For example, many women of color often share with me that they're expected to play the caregiver role across nearly every ecosystem they occupy. So, if this resonates with you, it may help to set some boundaries around the roles that you play. Or you could step into another role to create space for yourself and others. Or you could intentionally reduce your level of engagement in certain ecosystems rather than trying to operate at full capacity everywhere. And finally, reason three, the ecosystem itself may be under strain. Right now, a lot of our social justice spaces are carrying extraordinary levels of grief, urgency, fragmentation, and burnout. And that pressure can shape how people relate to one another and which roles can function sustainably and collaboratively. Maybe decisions are also being made that seem misaligned with an organization's values, or a collective is unable to pivot and adapt to changing conditions on the ground, or a network is unusually silent for fear of reputational harm. Sometimes the really painful realization is not that we are failing the ecosystem, but that it is struggling to sustain the kinds of people, relationships, and practices it longs to value. Then it might be important for us to bring in healers to set the conditions for deeper connection, or guides to support conversations around the underlying values of the ecosystem. Realizing this can help us move away from asking only what is wrong with me and towards some deeper questions, like what kinds of ecosystems support us, not merely to survive, but to grow, and what practices would help an ecosystem that's under strain become more sustainable for everyone inside it. So that's it for this first session, this first edition of Frequently Answered and Asked Questions. I hope these reflections are useful. There's more in my Substack, and I hope you'll join me next time to talk about another question that often comes up about the framework. And if there's a question that you'd like me to answer, reach out to me via Substack or Instagram. As always, more information is at www.socialchangemap.com. Thank you for being here and for everything you do.